morning, everyone. And as JC say, mabuhay. Welcome to Philippines. So, kidding aside. Okay, for today, I'll be, discussing about. I think everyone familiar about zero trust, but how can the zero trust be infused, into a supply chain and a DevOps supply chain? As I mentioned earlier, we're building a lot of new applications. In today's world, how can we make sure that this new application or new compute, we can ingest what we are being practiced. Like one of the framework that we have is the Zero Trust framework. So I'll be talking about this one. So we're doing a recap of Zero Trust. I know you're familiar with this one, about breaches, and they talk a lot of breaches earlier, but I'll be talking about more of those attacks. And of course, how can we infuse those Zero Trust into the supply chain? And of course, how can we find some solution or value proposition out of this infusing zero trust in our system in the DevOps supply chain. Okay, just a recap. I think you understand all of this one. No, zero trust is about eliminating the trust on all levels. Okay, so it started around 2004 by Jericho Forum, which is he think about the depermeatization. When we say depermeatization is about user and access and not trusting each other or eliminating the trust on all level. Okay, and moving forward around 2009 or 2010, which Jen Kender coined the zero trust. It's more about building the security frameworks and having or building a standard around it. And moving forward, it's been coined as a zero trust. But there are one thing that never tackled in the zero trust, okay? And it's all about the next generation application or the compute that we're using. Then how are these zero trust can be used in the new application that we're using? It's apparently day-to-day application that we're using. So the question is, are we eliminating the trust on all levels? Question, who's the one who's embarking the zero trust? This is a good question to everyone. Are we really eliminating the trust on all levels? Right? If you're embarking with this zero trust framework. So eventually, we ask some of those customers and they say, of course, yes. But our answer is not really. Why? So if we talk about why not, if we go back again on the zero trust, we're talking about network users, application access, micro-segmentation, identification, MFA. But we forgot about the one thing that, especially we are on the financial, right? The core banking system or the core banking application, for example, how are we producing those new applications? How are trying to deploy this type of application? Usually, there are some scenarios that happen, the security is happen at the end, when it's already on the production, right? Then are we really ingesting the zero trust framework on the new generation set of application or the new generation set of computes? So if we look at here, some of the breaches, looking at your right side at the bottom, the Optos, they spend millions of dollars, in cybersecurity, but they still have breach. It's not that they don't have frameworks, right? They don't have this type of frameworks, but they miss something that's really something that, it could be, if it's there, it could not be taken away. So they have this, what we call the API exposure that leak out there. And if you could see on the right side, on the left side, top, okay, where I think you're familiar with GitHub. The GitHub, there are, I think, more than 35,000 repositories, which is more of our developers are using, and 80 or 83 million of developers is getting some, they're pulling down those repositories, but it's being cloned, and those 83 million have been affected about this a breach on the GitHub. And if same similarity at the bottom part, which is more on the Python package, is as mentioned by our friend earlier. It's more on the attack or those packages that being downloaded is they understand what really happening on your environment. Then this malware environment pull those malware package and it runs to your entire organizations. And if you look at here, I think some of you much familiar with this other breaches is we have this Starbucks that leaves the API key exposed. And as I mentioned, if it's out there, you have nothing to do since your gateway or the perimeters cannot do anything about this exposure. Or we have this another breaches which is more on the misconfiguration, which the Imperva has the AWS the AWS access key or the API key been exposed outside the public internet. And some of those incidents is like there is password exposure by the big retailers, and they have also some of the supply chain attack, which is I mentioned this is the most critical type of attack that we can not really do anything. And if we go back around 2021, there's the cloud breaches surpasses what we call the private cloud breaches. Why? The reason of this is the adaptation of cloud becomes skyrocket. When say skyrocket, every organization adapt the cloud, no. But the challenge here, why the breaches is surpasses the private cloud, because of the skill gap. And it's still happening in the market. We don't have really the standard. How can we, we don't have the standard. How can we protect this new application or new compute that we have? And if you look at here, on the trends on the right side, on the report that each an organization, like an enterprise organization, on average, they have 15,000 APIs. And a large organization, they have a 25,000 type of an API. And if you can see, 41% of this has a breaches. And 60% of these breaches already interrupt their transactions. And if we look at in the point of view of a finance point of view, this is very critical to them because all those API integrations is somehow put order budget to it. No, it's some transactional API calls that they have. And on the left side of the screen, on my left side of my screen, so as you can see, Gartner also predicted by 2025, most of the organization will shift the budget into cloud. And later on, we'll talk more about how Gartner will help us in this infusing those zero trust on our DevOps supply chain. Okay, so some of the challenges. When we talk about challenges, we're talking about the real life challenges. So this is a survey. What are those challenges? Usually, what are the security challenges that organization face with the faster deployment cycle of CI/CD? Okay, so these are some of the questions. So first is 45% is software release without going through any security check or testing. Or 43% security lacks a visibility and control in the development process. No, most of us probably really don't know what were really happening inside the process of the whole supply chain that we have. And of course, 36% is lack of consistency in the security across different development teams. And we have some of the challenges. New builds are deployed to production even with vulnerabilities. If I ask you a question in particular to this, are we pushing those updates? Even we know there's an organic vulnerabilities. What do you think? If you understand what really happening doon sa how we develop the application, are really pushing, even we know that there are low vulnerabilities or probably, we don't understand really if this is somehow a codes or the packages that we upload is really have this type of vulnerabilities. And some of the reason, apology for if there are some security developer team here, so security cannot keep up with the release cadence. So these are some of the survey, and developers are skipping security processes, and developers don't want to work with the security. Okay, so these are the real type scenarios that really happen in the field. And go back to my question earlier. So this is another survey. The survey is about, has your organization ever pushed code to production without knowing an organic vulnerabilities. So based on the survey, you could say 48% say, yes, we do this regularly. 31%, yes, we do this occasionally. And 6%, yes, we done this once. 14%, no. We have never knowingly pushed the code to production with vulnerabilities. So imagine, 80% are pushing even they know that this code production has something in it. And it's mean 10 out of 8 out of 10, to only have this the cloud grail to secure those new applications or pushing those type of application to the production. And the next question is, of course, in contrast with this, for which of the following reason, what's the reason that you push this application code to the production that you know there's an organic vulnerabilities? Okay, and some of this answer is 54% is to meet the critical deadline with a plan to remediate and later release. I know if there are some devs here, some of you may, or some of the security guys who know the process would understand. And the second one is we felt that vulnerabilities had a very low risk. Okay, so those are in real life scenario. And the third one, this one, is the bad thing, because the vulnerabilities were discovered is too late on our cycle to resolve them in time. And what really happened, if we put the application to the production and there's an issue, we need to return it to the developers, and somehow it would take time. How we can resolve 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, and so forth. Okay, now, if we're talking about software development life cycle, right, or the requirements for modern CI/CD pipeline, yeah, if you know, sorry. Okay, if we look at this, as I mentioned earlier, traditional security is not built for the CI/CD. Why? Because, as I mentioned earlier, the security is being deployed at the end. No. But what really happened is those security check at the end of the cycle send, as I mentioned, is if there's an issue, we need to send back to the developers or to the application team. And of course, we do use a manual soiled approach. And of course, we harden or we wrap the DevOps agility, and organization force to trade the agility for the security. What I'm telling here is there's a lot need to be understand in the process, not just protecting, at the end. No, for example, here there are some scenarios that we need to secure the API tokens or the hard-coded secret or some of those vulnerabilities or a misconfiguration that happen on the code level. And of course, there are some malicious codes that being attached, as one of the sample earlier on the SolarWinds, that they changed the DLL, and this DLL is communicating to some of those, a valid source, or there are some command and control source that they are communicating, yung DLL codes that being embedded doon sa applications natin. Now, solutions. How can we, infuse this zero trust into DevOps supply chain? So first, of course, we go deep shift left. When we say go deep shift left, we eliminate the trust in every point of the pipeline, from code, from build, from test up to the operate. Then why I'm talking about a zero trust or good deep shift left? No. So every organization is talking about shift left, but shift left is not just about knowing your runtime, identification of the infrastructure as a code. So go deep shift left is moving, go deep to the left, where the developer is still doing the codes up to the codes is being go live. So this is what I'm talking about, going deep shift left, because it's not just about the runtime protection or the view of the vulnerabilities that you have. It is eliminating, the every points in a certain period of time, which is at the developer side at itself. Okay? And of course, but we cannot put, just one thing, We cannot put a single solution on it. What do I mean is, usually if we put something, we want to make sure that everyone who pass through this point of elimination, I will allow. If you don't succeed on for example, it's a certain policies or guidelines. If you don't pass onto the guidelines, I will drop you. But security should not be an enabler, or security should be enabler, not an enforcer. If you go back on the survey, the DevOps doesn't want to work with the security because it slowed them down. This is some of the reason. That's why they somehow bypass the process on terms of security. But what we need is we need to have a solution in every points, of the pipeline. So meaning we need to have an automated granular response across those multiple control points. If we're talking about code, we have this tools on the codes. We have this application. We have these tools. We have the security tools, workload, and move to an infrastructure. Why we are doing this? Because if we experience any issue within this pipeline, we can just tweak what really happened on that certain level of pipeline. We will not shutting down the whole pipe because we have these incidents, and we can tweak and we can remediate what really happening on those pipe, diba? So it's much better. But in reality, what really happening on our environment is because there's a lot of tools out there in the market, what it's trying to is we're putting different set of controls. When we say different set of controls, it's A, B, C, D, E, F. But the problem here is you have different solutions for posture management. You have this container, agentless, etc. But this give over alert fatigue with the security guys. And with this different type of solution that doesn't talk to each other, what happened is we really don't understand the context of the whole infrastructure that we have. Okay, so that's why Gartner releases what they call the CNAPP. No, CNAPP is the Cloud Native Application Protection Platform, which is it's an integrated set of security and compliance capability designed to help secure and protect cloud native application across development and production. So an integrated set of technology. And aside, CNAPP do consolidation. So earlier, we have the challenges of multiple type of technology. So CNAPP defined this as a consolidated large number of previously soiled capabilities, including container scanning, posture management, infrastructure code scanning, cloud infrastructure entitlement, right, workload protections platform. So they're telling us to do an integrated tools that are consolidated that could understand what really happening on your certain environment. And this is why I'm telling you why we need to infuse the zero trust into the security or the DevOps pipeline. When we're talking about infusing the zero trust, if you can see on the screen, we are penetrating the whole pipeline of the entire productions of the application production. Now, here is we can enable our SecDev. The SecDev can do codes and analyze the codes. So here we can provide them, or they could understand what really need to improve on their code of execution. So for example, they have this hard-coded secret, they have this type of misconfiguration. So the SecDev could really understand. And moving to the right, when we're doing a build and deploy, we have this type of DevSec and SecOps operations that happening. Then we can enforce the security compliance standard, which is probably the zero trust permission, or what really happening on your containers or your workload configurations. Then there's a thing, sometimes it's too hard, to do a compliance on your container or environment because it's so hard to insert code. Then this is the very way that the agentless posture management, as Sir mentioned earlier, they provide the posture management in their environment. So agentless posture management came in place. And moving to the operate, this is very effective, the effective risk management, because I understand that you go do shift left and you're moving to the right up to the production level, you could have a complete visibility of the whole infrastructure or the whole life cycle that you have. Sorry. So now, we can implement a structured multi-layer security. When you say implementing structured multi-layer security, we can, from the infrastructure itself, moving to your virtual machine, your serverless or your container environment, and even to the developer per security or your CI/CD pipeline. And now, you can implement in every points and identify what are the governance, compliance, or operations that you need to impose. Okay? So I think, sorry, 2 minutes. So as I mentioned, I think I mentioned this already earlier. So CNAP or Gartner telling us to be consolidated plus be integrated, and we need those comprehensive platform approach. When you say comprehensive platform approach, we can secure the all points of the entire environment that we have. It's either private or public cloud that we are using. So we can create a network security gateways, we can secure yung control plane, we can secure your serverless or even your application itself and the CI/CD pipe that we have. And last thing, of course, it should have a unified field management for easy, identifications or monitoring that, what an operation team are doing. Again, as I mentioned, with the modern SDLC, we can insert a different set of security tools or controls over, from code up to the operation, up the deploy stage. Again, in summary, we can do deep visibility in all layers. We can do a layered security approach or implement developer per security, and we can build a security posture for compliance and governance and having a variety of intelligence on our cloud environment. Again, thank you, and may cloud be with you.